Imagine you're watching your favorite movie. The hero is someone you've rooted for since the very beginning. You know their name, you know their face, you know their story, or at least you think you do. And then, right at the most unexpected moment, the director pulls back the curtain, and everything, absolutely everything, you believed about that person turns out to be different. Not wrong, not a lie, just different from what the world assumed. The audience gasps. Social media explodes. Headlines run across every screen on the planet, and people everywhere say those same four unforgettable words: nobody expected this. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and everyone joining us today, welcome. What I'm about to share with you today is not just a story about one woman's identity being revealed. This is a story about assumptions, about labels, about the dangerous power of letting the world define you before you've had the chance to define yourself. This is a story about what happens when the truth finally speaks louder than the noise. And most importantly, this is a story about you, because every single person sitting in this room today has had a moment, maybe many moments, where the world looked at you and decided who you were before you ever opened your mouth. So buckle up, because what we're about to unpack today will change the way you see identity, truth, courage, and belonging forever. Let's be honest with ourselves right from the start. Human beings are labeling machines. From the moment we see someone, their face, their skin, their accent, their name, their clothes, our brains are already working overtime, sorting, categorizing, filing them away into boxes. She looks like she's from here. He sounds like he's from there. She must be one of them. He couldn't possibly be one of us. We do it automatically. We do it constantly. And most of the time, we do it completely wrong. History is filled with examples of extraordinary people who were mislabeled, misidentified, and misunderstood by a world that was too quick to judge and too slow to listen. Albert Einstein was told he'd never amount to anything. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. J.K. Rowling was rejected 12 times because publishers decided her story wasn't worthy. The world looked at each of them and said, "We know what you are, we know where you belong, and it's not here." And every single time, those extraordinary individuals stood up, brushed off the label, and said, "You don't know me as well as you think you do." Now here's the deeper question I want you to sit with today. What happens when the label isn't just wrong? It's completely misidentifying the very ground someone stands on. Not just their talent, not just their personality, but their roots, their homeland, their origin, the very answer to the question every human being carries inside them from birth. Where do I come from? Let me tell you something that most people don't fully understand. Your country, your true country, is not always the name printed on your passport. Your country is not always the language you learned first in school. Your country is not always the anthem that played on your television growing up. Your true country lives somewhere deeper. It lives in the stories your grandmother whispered to you at night. It lives in the food that made your heart feel like home, even when you were thousands of miles away. It lives in the music that made you close your eyes and feel something words could never fully explain. It lives in the blood, the memory, the culture that shaped the very person you became, whether the world recognized it or not. And for many people, more than we ever realize, there is a profound, painful, beautiful gap between the country the world assumes they're from and the country that truly lives inside their heart. We see this in athletes who compete for nations they weren't born in. We see this in artists whose heritage gets erased because it's inconvenient for the narrative. We see this in immigrants whose children grow up between two worlds, belonging fully to neither, yet carrying the richness of both. And every so often, the world gets a moment, a revelation moment, a moment where someone's true country is finally revealed, and nobody saw it coming. Now let's talk about why these revelations hit us so hard. Why does it feel like an earthquake when we discover that someone we thought we knew, someone famous, someone celebrated, someone whose identity seems so obvious, turns out to have roots, a heritage, a homeland that nobody expected? There are 3 reasons, and I want to walk through each one carefully. The first reason: we confuse presentation with truth. In today's world, we are constantly presented with a curated version of reality. Social media, television, magazines, news headlines, they all work together to create an image, a brand, a story. And we consume that story so completely that we forget it's just one version of a much bigger, much more complex truth. When her true country is finally revealed, when the real roots come out, it's not that she was hiding something shameful. It's that the world was only ever seeing one chapter of a book that had many more pages. The second reason, we underestimate the power of mixed identity. In our modern world, identity is rarely simple. People are born on one continent, raised on another, educated in a third, fall in love in a fourth, and build their career in a fifth. So who are they really? The answer is all of it. They are the sum of every culture that touched them, every language that shaped their thoughts, every landscape that colored their dreams. When someone's true country is revealed, it often isn't a correction of a lie. It's an expansion of a truth that was always too big to fit inside one simple label. The third reason, truth has a timing of its own. Sometimes, people aren't ready to reveal everything about themselves, not because they're ashamed, but because the world wasn't ready to receive it, because there were safety concerns, because there were political complications, because the timing simply wasn't right. And then one day it is. And when that moment comes, when the truth finally steps into the light, the world stops and says, "Nobody expected this." I want to pause here for a moment and speak directly to the heart of what this really means, because it's easy to sit back and react to someone's revelation as if it's entertainment, as if it's a plot twist in a movie, as if it's content to consume, share, and move on from. But let's not do that today. Let's instead recognize the extraordinary courage it takes for any human being to finally stand in their full truth, especially when that truth is complicated, especially when that truth carries the weight of history, politics, and prejudice, especially when revealing that truth means risking misunderstanding, judgment, and rejection from people who thought they already knew you. Think about that for a moment. Imagine carrying a piece of yourself, a fundamental, beautiful, essential piece of who you are, and knowing that the moment you reveal it, everything changes. People will question your achievements. Did she earn this for herself or because of where she's from? People will rewrite your story. Oh, that explains everything. People will reduce you. So that's all she is. And yet, she did it anyway. She stepped forward. She let the truth be known. Not because it was safe, not because it was easy, but because there comes a moment in every person's life when the cost of hiding who you truly are becomes greater than the risk of showing who you truly are. And that moment, that is the bravest moment of a person's life. Now here is where I want to bring this conversation home, because we didn't gather here today just to talk about one woman's identity being revealed. We gathered here because this story, her story, is a mirror, and when you look into it honestly, you might see a little bit of yourself. How many of you have ever felt like the world misunderstood where you came from? How many of you have ever been put in a box that didn't fit? How many of you have ever introduced yourself and watched someone's face change, not because of your name, but because of the assumptions attached to it? How many of you have ever felt the quiet, exhausting weight of living between two identities, never feeling fully accepted by either side? If you have, then you understand exactly what this revelation means. Not just for her, but for every person who has ever been told, "You don't look like you're from there. Your name doesn't match your face. You don't sound like one of them." Are you sure? Because we assume something different. The revelation of her true country isn't just a headline, it's a statement. It's a declaration that says, the world's assumptions do not get to overwrite a person's truth. And that declaration matters. It matters for every child growing up between cultures. It matters for every immigrant who built a life far from their homeland. It matters for every person who has ever had to choose between fitting in and being real. You do not have to choose. Your full truth, all of it, every complicated, beautiful, layered piece of it, deserves to be seen. Here is what I truly believe. These moments of revelation, when someone's true identity, their true country, their true roots finally come to light. These moments are gifts, not just to the person being revealed, but to all of us, because they force us to do something we rarely do voluntarily. They force us to question our assumptions. They force us to ask, how many other people have I labeled incorrectly? How many stories have I gotten wrong? How many times have I seen only what I expected to see instead of what was actually there? In a world that is more divided than ever, where we build walls between nations, between cultures, between communities. These moments of revelation remind us of a truth that geography tries to bury. Human beings are not as simple as borders. We cross lines, we carry histories, we inherit languages and lose them, we adopt cultures and blend them. We carry our ancestors in our bones even when we've never set foot in the land they called home. And when someone steps forward and says, "This is where I truly come from," and the world says nobody expected this, what they're really saying is, we had underestimated the complexity of this person's humanity. And isn't that the real lesson here? We must stop underestimating the complexity of human beings. Every person you meet is a world unto themselves. Every person carries a geography inside them that no map has ever fully charted. Every person's true country is vaster, richer, and more surprising than any assumption could capture. So where do we go from here? Because a speech without a call to action is just noise, and I refuse to leave you with just noise. Here is what I am asking of every single person in this room today. Number 1, lead with curiosity, not assumption. The next time you meet someone new, before you file them into a box, before you decide where they're from, what they believe, what they're capable of, ask a question, be curious, say, "Tell me your story," and then actually listen. You will be amazed at what you discover when you replace assumption with curiosity. Number 2, honor the complexity of identity. Stop demanding that people choose one label, one country, one side. Human beings are not either slash or propositions. We are and. She is from here and from there. He is this culture and that culture. They speak this language and that language. Both things are true. Both things are real. Both things deserve to be honored. Number 3, create spaces where truth can safely emerge. The reason her true country was hidden for so long, the reason any truth stays hidden, is because the environment wasn't safe enough for it to come out. We need to build communities, families, workplaces, and societies where people feel safe enough to bring their full truth to the table. Not just the convenient truth, not just the comfortable truth, but the whole truth. Because the world is richer when people can be fully themselves. Number 4, celebrate the revelation, not just the secret. When someone's truth comes to light, don't just make it a headline, make it a celebration. Celebrate the courage it took to reveal it. Celebrate the richness it adds to our understanding. Celebrate the reminder that reality is always more beautiful and more complex than our assumptions. Let me bring this all the way back to where we started. A woman steps forward. The world thinks it knows her story, and then the truth emerges. Her true country is revealed, and nobody expected it. But here's what I want you to remember long after you leave this room today. The real surprise isn't where she came from. The real surprise is what her revelation reveals about us, our assumptions, our shortcuts, our tendency to reduce complex, beautiful human beings into simple, manageable categories. Her truth didn't change who she is. It only revealed how much we had missed. And that's the invitation I'm leaving you with today. What truths are you missing in the people around you? What countries exist inside the people you sit next to at work, at school, at home? Countries you've never thought to ask about? What revelations are waiting to happen? Not on the news, not in some distant celebrity's life, but in your own relationships, your own communities, your own family. Because I promise you this, if you are willing to look past the assumption, if you are willing to sit with the complexity, if you are willing to say, "Tell me who you really are, I'm ready to listen," then you will discover that the most extraordinary revelations aren't the ones that make headlines. They're the ones that happen quietly across a table between two people who finally decide to see each other truly, fully, completely, for the very first time. And when that happens, everybody gasps, not because nobody expected it, but because it is that beautiful. Thank you.